Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching!
I'm real revolutionary right now. Black power.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today's Thursday, June 12, 2025, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. I'm here in Memphis, where I spoke earlier at the 32nd annual Juneteenth Freedom Celebration here in Memphis. Folks, craziness happening in this country. Federal agents literally attack or throw down and arrest a United States senator. Wait till we show you the shocking video of California Senator Alex Padilla when he was trying to question Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and how he was accosted by federal agents. Boy, it is unbelievable. And trust me, Democratic senators are angry and upset. So are House members. Meanwhile, Donald Trump's crackdown in L.A. is tearing black and brown families apart. Thousands of troops are there on the ground. You also have an absolutely outstanding and crazy situation of curfews as well. We have a retired lieutenant general in the United States Army who will be on to talk about this just improper use of the military. Plus, Donald Trump, how he turned a partisan speech at Fort Bragg, into really a partisan throwdown. Plus, this weekend is going down. The No Kings protest is going to hit some 2,000 cities across the country as Donald Trump spends $100 million on a military parade birthday celebration under the guise of celebrating 250 years of the United States Army. Folks, lots to break down. It is time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Folks, we repeatedly told you what would happen if Donald Trump is put back in the Oval Office, how he would abuse his power. Folks, today in California, federal agents literally forcefully removed a sitting United States senator from a news conference where Department of Homeland Security ICE Barbie Kristi Noem was speaking. That senator is Alex Padilla. Folks, NBC News political and national correspondent Jacob Soboroff, he captured the moment where Padilla was forcefully taken from the room, taken to, don't play it yet, taken to the floor and handcuffed. Now, he was trying to, hold on one second, guys. Padilla was trying to, he was first of all invited there for a briefing with Noem. She was speaking, he wanted to ask her a question, and that's when these federal agents did this.
Guys, ready? And bell. Sir, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your.
I also want to
Hands off.
How many of our ICE agents have been docked?
On the ground. Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
If you don't my hands, go ahead, put them behind my back.
All right, cool. Other hand, lay flat, lay flat.
Other hand, sir. Other hand.
There's no recording allowed out here.
I did not know.
There's no recording allowed out here per FBI, right?
So what, I'm sorry?
There's no recording allowed out here.
That's my boss. I have to
There's no
record
recording
everything
allowed out
first.
here. You can record, there's no recording allowed out here.
Then, folks, the ICE folks lied. They put out a statement saying that Padilla never identified himself. You hear him say on the video he is a United States senator. Well, after being briefly detained, Padilla spoke to reporters.
Over the course of recent weeks, several of my colleagues, have been asking the Department of Homeland Security for more information and more answers on their increasingly extreme immigration enforcement actions. And we've gotten little to no information in response to our inquiries. And so I came to the press conference to hear what she had to say, to see if I could learn any new additional information. And at one point, I had a question. And let me emphasize, just as we've emphasized the right for people to peacefully protest and to stand up for their First Amendment rights, for our fundamental rights. I was there peacefully. At one point, I had a question. And so I began to ask a question. I was almost immediately forcibly removed from the room. I was forced to the ground, and I was handcuffed. I was not arrested. I was not detained. I will say this. If this is how this administration responds to a senator with a question, if this is how the Department of Homeland Security responds to a senator with a question, you can only imagine what they're doing to farm workers, to cooks, to day laborers out in the Los Angeles community and throughout California and throughout the country. We will hold this administration accountable.
Folks, the actions against Senator Padilla unleash Democrats on Capitol Hill. They were angry, they were fired up, and were shocked and stunned by the actions. Now, mind you, one of these federal agents included an FBI officer. It was unbelievable what took place. This is New Jersey Senator Cory Booker on the United States Senate floor.
Mr. President.
I recognize the senator from New Jersey.
I never thought I would imagine having to stand here and discuss what I saw today. A United States senator in his own community, in the city in which he grew up, elected under the authority of the people, stepping forward to get answers to legitimate questions, and we see him being thrown to the ground after being removed from a room forcibly and put into handcuffs by multiple people. This, to me, is such an abuse of authority. It is a violent act, and there can be no justification of seeing a senator forced to their knees, laid flat on the ground, their hands twisted behind their back, and being put into restraints. If you see the video, at that point, he's not fighting, he's not pushing. But this is a pattern and a practice. This is not an isolated incident. I remind people that in my own community, in the city of Newark, we had a congresswoman and a mayor at a facility. The mayor invited into the gate the Congress people, invited into a conference room, and then the mayor asked to leave, who did leave, and then numerous agents run out to arrest that mayor. Now, the judge in this case said it was outrageous, reprimanded the Trump administration for the arrest in and of itself. We see time and time again with this administration trying to precipitate a response by the misuse and the abuse of force. This is more akin to authoritarian governments. When you see a democratic nation having their executive begin to arrest mayors, begin to arrest judges, begin to arrest a United States senator who is simply asking for answers to their questions, to remove them from a room forcibly, to throw them to the ground, to put them in restraints. This is something that we should not tolerate. And by we, this is not Democrats and Republicans. This is we in this body. We have a constitutional obligation to provide oversight to the executive, a constitutional obligation to ask questions, to make inquiries, a constitutional obligation to check and balance the authority of the executive. And so here we saw before our eyes a senator in their district, in their state, asking questions, and we see him being shoved out of a room, but it did not stop there. Shoved to the ground, shoved onto his belly, and have his arms pulled behind his back. This should outrage every United States senator. This should outrage every United States senator.
Folks, this was Senator Elizabeth Warren as she was headed to the Senate floor. Okay, we're going to have that in a second. Folks, it's absolutely crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Let's roll the next video.
Call it what it is, a disgraceful abuse of power. Senator Padilla was handcuffed and dragged out of for daring to ask a question. This wasn't a threat, it's dissent, and they crushed it with force. They're not keeping us safe, they're trying to silence us. We won't back down.
Folks, that is Congresswoman Norma Torres. It's just, just unbelievable what we're seeing. Not only that, we had, of course, again, we're going to show you what Senator Elizabeth Warren had to say. Then you had this major clash in the House between Congressman Maxwell Frost and James Comer and that nutcase Marjorie Taylor Greene. And this thing just goes on and on and on. And Republicans, it's amazingly how silent they are. I want to bring my panel. We're going to play you some of this more video. Dr. Greg Carr, Department of Afro-American Studies, Howard University out of D.C., Reese Colbert, host of the Reese Colbert Show and creator of Card Game, and my tripping out of D.C., Zabora G, EIA consultant, employment specialist out of Houston. We have Greg and Reese. Here's the thing here, Reese. It is just nuts here. And when you talk about an authoritarian regime, that's what this is. What Donald Trump wants to do, he wants to amass power. He wants to act like he has total control over every federal law enforcement officer. They can do what they want. We're going to talk a little bit later about the speech that he gave before those troops at Fort Bragg, how they think, no, these are my troops, I can do what I want, and how they even were weeding out people who agree with him politically, which is never supposed to happen when it comes to the military. All of these people who played around and BS'd, who told us, oh, y'all shilling for Democrats, y'all trying to scare us into voting. That man ain't gonna do all of this stuff. We have Exhibit 1168, Exhibit 1169, and it's just every single day, and people don't seem to understand. This is what he wants. We're not even at the 6-month mark of this idiot's second term.
Yeah, look, who gonna check him? He's proven that everything he wants to do, he can do, and ain't nobody gonna do a damn thing about it. The reality is that we now have a single branch of government running the United States, running the federal government, and that's the authoritarian regime of Donald Trump. Republicans who are so hell-bent the other time on decorum and my friend across the aisle and how people are supposed to be buttoned up, ain't got a damn thing to say about a U.S. sitting senator being tackled by federal agents, and Kristi Noem, her stupid ass, is just sitting up there rambling on like this is normal. This is not normal. And to Senator Padilla's point, if they can act like this toward one out of 100 of the most powerful people in this country, You know they're gonna cut a whole ass, or they already are, against everyday regular people. And so, shame on the Republicans for their silence, but also, should the Democrats ever manage to get back in office, or for the remainder of this term, drop all of that camaraderie bullshit, drop all of that my friends across the aisle bullshit, and treat them like how they would treat you. They've already deemed Democrats enemies of this regime. Treat them with the same energy that they're treating you. Maybe we can get somewhere. Maybe people will start to realize that Democrats and Republicans are not two sides of the same coin.
Greg, this is right here the concern. There were so many people, and I've heard this from black folks in media, in other spaces. Democrats need to fight back. They need to be showing up at these places. They need to be protesting. Listen, we saw it the other day where they slammed the door in the face of Congresswoman Maxine Waters trying to do her job. We saw that when Democrats were showing up at federal offices in Washington, D.C. We saw it. Cory Booker mentioned that. What happened to Mayor Ras Baraka? What happened to a member of Congress in New Jersey who they have now indicted as a result? And so, unlike in any other situation, they are using the full force of the law to go after any dissent. And so they don't care if you are a House member, if you are a mayor, if you are a United States senator, if you have not only that, I don't even damn if you're a Democrat or Republican. Senator Rand Paul is complaining because he's against Trump's budget bill. Trump has disinvited him to a bipartisan cookout at the White House. These people are about power and control. They are defying judicial rulings. They are defying everything. And the fundamental problem here is that the people who are in control of the House, Republicans, control of the House of the Senate, Republicans, they are scared to death to put this man in check. They know what he's doing is wrong, but they won't say a word.
No, they won't. Nothing that is happening is surprising. We knew this is what they were going to do. Senator Padilla needs to pursue a legal course of action because they are not using the law. They are lawless. Kristi Noem is a liar to her DNA. The Department of Homeland Security put on their website another lie saying that Senator Padilla disrupted the conference. And let's say that he did. There's a First Amendment to the United States Constitution. Generally speaking, there is sovereign immunity, so law enforcement officials, it's very difficult to sue them without the government's consent. However, and this is parenthetically why Senator Padilla back in 2021 introduced the Accountability for Federal Law Enforcement Act, which would allow an easier pathway to sue. But he needs to pursue legal action. Even if he can't file a 1983 claim or go to civil court, he certainly needs to claim that these officers acting under color of law assaulted him and let the process work its way out. What they cannot do, I agree with Reese, not this my colleague and Cory Booker with his hand on his breast. No. Senator Schiff had all the bass in his voice when he was holding Trump accountable during the impeachment hearings. It's not, I'm with Alex. No, I'm with the law. And Kristi Noem, you're not covered by Trump versus United States. Your ass going to jail as soon as these politics flip. And Stephen Miller, who's driving a great deal of this, you're going to jail too. Finally, we have to be clear about the fact, just as Ras Baraka is suing Alina Hababa in New Jersey, the interim state attorney, just federal attorney in New Jersey, you need to go to court and fight these people. They don't have that kind of muscle. That snot-nosed punk, Kevin Roberts, Dr. Roberts, one of the quarterbacks of Project 2025, said famously, as you reported and as we talked about last year, that this revolution would be nonviolent if the left allows it to be. Well, guess what? No amount of peaceful protest, no amount of acquiescence is going to stop this. They are lawless, and it's time to rein these rabid dogs in. And Senator Padilla needs to go to court.
Roland, can I add one more thing?
Folks, yeah, go ahead.
All this over Kristi funky ass Noem. This wasn't like the State of the Union and Padilla was bum rushing the stage. This was a press conference with a low-level cabinet secretary in a local area. This isn't even a federal building. And this is the extreme escalation of violence. This wasn't just a disproportionate response because they're just jacked up. It's because they're trying to send a message, particularly to Democrats, that none of you are going to do a damn thing about anything that they want to do, because this is just so extreme over, like I said, this is a low-level person. This isn't nobody high up on the, it wasn't like it was J.D. Vance or the Pope or something up there. So the way that they feel so comfortable right now, you have military people yelling partisan things. They really are feeling themselves and smelling themselves right now. And unfortunately, there's no organized effort on the Democratic elected side to make them have any fear about doing these things.
Folks, this is Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass with her reaction.
Lie. And I just have to say, I served with the secretary. I served with the secretary for probably about 10 years in Congress. And Madam Secretary, I do not recognize you anymore. I do not know Kristi Noem that I served with for 10 years.
Folks, again, absolutely unbelievable. We talked about Senator Elizabeth Warren. Again, she was, I think, looks like she was going through a parking garage when this video played, when she recorded this video.
When Senator Padilla gets pushed, shoved, thrown to the handcuffed because he is asking questions, because he is engaging in the very oversight that senators are supposed to engage in, then what we're really talking about here is a Trump administration that just wants to shut down the ordinary functions of government. Look, I don't have oversight myself. I ask a lot of questions because that's how it works in a democracy. We use our words to hold people accountable. We don't use our fists. We don't shove. We don't try to knock people down. We use our words. That's what oversight is all about. And that's what I want to go to the floor of the Senate to talk about. I think it is time for every senator, every member of Congress, Democrat or Republican, to stand up and say what Donald Trump has done is wrong.
Things got also chippy in the U.S. House, where Congresswoman Maxwell Frost, James Comer, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, they went at it.
Mr. Chair, unanimous consent request.
Mr. Frost.
Unanimous consent request into the record a NBC article. Senator Alex Padilla removed from news conference with Homeland Security Secretary Noem.
All right, without objection to order.
I have another one, the Hill article. Padilla forcibly removed from Noem press conference.
Without objection to order.
And I have a third one, Axios, Democratic senator forcibly removed from DHS press conference.
Without objection to order.
Mr. Chair, also, we were just talking about this. I want to know if you can commit to working with us so we can subpoena.
You're out of order.
So
Chair recognizes
I have
Ms.
a point
Green.
of, I have a point of order.
No.
I have a point of order.
State your point.
We need to subpoena.
That's not
Secretary
a point of order.
Noem.
Chair recognizes
We just
Ms.
talked
Green.
about this
That's
earlier.
not a point.
We talked.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time.
To the ground.
Reclaiming my time.
And handcuffed in his own damn
Oh, Democrats can't follow the rules. Can't follow the law. Can't follow the rules. Can't follow the law.
We need to subpoena Kristi Noem. It's her staff, DHS federal
There's a privilege of the majority, and that means we're in charge, not your side. Because you lost the election.
Ms. Green, we're going to start the clock.
Because you supported the invasion of our country.
All right.
It's my time.
Will you commit on the record to work
my
on
time.
subpoena
Thank you,
Kristi
Mr.
Noem?
Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're out of order. Chair recognizes Ms. Green.
Will you commit on the record to subpoenaing Kristi Noem because a U.S. senator was just thrown to the ground and detained in his own...
Democrats can't follow the rules. Can't follow the law. Can't follow the rules.
Shut up. Just shut up.
No, you don't. No, you're not going to tell me to shut up.
How do you get him in order? You're running for the...
Not like that.
He has been out of order 6 times. He's trying to get on MSNBC. You probably knocked...
I get it.
somebody off
I don't have any problem
MSNBC to
getting
get
on
on there.
MSNBC. That's
Miss
not
I
what I'm
Green,
think as he's been arrested as a
recognized.
former
Yeah, well,
Antifa
okay,
member,
here,
right?
back to order, Miss Green. Go.
He's a
go.
former
All
Antifa
right, Miss
member,
Green, you're
Mr.
recognized.
Chairman.
You got
no
it.
surprise.
Who's a former
Yours.
Antifa member? Me?
Yeah, you.
I asked that these words be taken down. Yeah.
No, Miss Green,
Thank you.
you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
There's a motion.
Governor
Miss Green
Hochul,
is recognized.
Governor
I asked that
Hochul,
these
you
words be taken
stated
down.
that you're a proud Democrat, proud registered
All
Democrat.
right, we got to suspend. There's been a parliamentary move. They said they weren't going to do that.
That idiot literally said, you're an Antifa member? Okay, white supremacist. Zabor G joins us. Look, what you're seeing here, Zabor, is this level of craziness. First of all, how insane is it to hear Marjorie Taylor Greene say Democrats don't want to follow the law when that's what this administration is constantly doing, breaking the law?
Definitely. It's a lack of respect, and you can see the lack of respect. No order was followed. They are just throwing words, screaming, removing people. They have no level of decorum. And they can say all day that it's the Democrats that are not following the rules or the Democrats that are not doing this and not doing that. But how can anyone follow rules in so much chaos? You don't want a person to follow the rules or have respect when you're throwing people out and dragging people out. I think that it's a disrespect to our democracy and to everything that the country is supposed to stand for.
Again, what we are seeing is sheer craziness, and Republicans are allowing that. Now you have House Speaker Mike Johnson not condemning the actions of these federal officers. He's saying that Congress's censure Senator Padilla. These people literally are crazy. And this is what happens when you put the power of the White House, the House, and the Senate in the party of deranged MAGA Republicans. Folks, going to go to a break. We come back. Donald Trump spoke this week at Fort Bragg. Oh, it was a political rally in front of federal troops. That should never happen. A lot of people also are saying that this action by sending troops to Los Angeles is the first wave, that you're going to see him do this. And Republican governors in other states are going to also do it as well. They want to put Army troops, Marine troops on the ground to quell the First Amendment rights of Americans. We'll talk to a retired U.S. Army general next, right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, have you ever had $1 million idea and wondered how to bring it to life? Well, it's all about turning problems into opportunities. On our next Get Wealthy, you'll learn of a woman who identified the overload bag syndrome, and now she's taking that money to the bank through global sales in major department stores.
And I was just struggling with 2 or 3 bags on the train. And I looked around on the train and I said, you know what? There are a lot of women that are carrying two or 3 bags.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
This week on The Other Side of Change.
We are here talking about the unfortunate case of 30-year-old Adriana Smith, who was diagnosed and pronounced as brain dead at 9 weeks pregnant and is being kept alive by the state to carry this pregnancy out to full term without any input from her family. It's a really harrowing example of the lack of bodily autonomy we have in a post-Roe world, and we're going to dream bigger. Join us on The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network.
This week on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie, we're talking faith, family, fatherhood, and the pathway to reentry. Most of us, in some way, shape, form, or fashion, have had someone in our lives, whether it was a grandfather, a father, an uncle, a brother, or a cousin, who has been incarcerated or justice impacted. What does that look like in rebuilding family and relationships? What does it look like for us to be able to have substantive conversations, come to the table table, love on each other, while at the same time, get it all out in the open so that we can begin a new journey together.
You know, the last thing you want is in the midst of trying to piece your life back together for home to not be a comfortable place.
That's all next on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie here on Black Star Network.
I am Tommy Davidson. I play Oscar on Proud Family, Louder and Prouder.
Right now, I'm rolling with Roland Martin, unfiltered, uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable. You hear me?
Critics are complaining about Donald Trump sending federal troops to Los Angeles to quell protests. California Governor Gavin Newsom never, ever requested for the troops to come in. That's normally the protocol where a governor requests National Guard troops. Trump chose on his own. While that happened, this week he went to Fort Bragg, where he gave a shameful and despicable speech where we now know, according to Military Times, where they literally were casting soldiers, did not want overweight soldiers to be in the stands behind him. They wanted soldiers that agreed with the political ideology of Donald Trump. And during that speech, he was ripping President Biden, he was ripping the media, and you heard the cheering of these troops. Folks, in this country, the military is not used as political props. But the draft dodger, Mr. Bone Spurs, the man who also didn't have the courage to go see the grave sites of American soldiers, a man who is called soldiers that have given their lives for this country losers. That's this individual right here. The actions that he is taking is something that we have not seen ever before. But again, we told people this was going to happen, and folks did not listen to us. A number of military members, commanders who are still serving, are quietly pushing back. Many were highly critical of what happened this week at Fort Bragg. They see also what's happening right now in Los Angeles. It's not good. But the problem is, we know that under this administration, under this joke of a Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, and if any one of those generals or commanders, if they go public, they're going to be fired. It's going to happen. And so to give us a sense of what is being talked about in the military community, we're joined right now by retired U.S. Army Brigadier General Arnold Bray from Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Glad to have you on the show, Frat. Let's just give our folks a sense. You are, listen, once in the military, always in the military. I've been corresponding with other retired generals and others, and members of the military, individuals who may be Republican, individuals who may be conservative. They are shocked by what they're seeing and how Donald Trump is frankly pimping the U.S. military for his purposes.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. It is, it's appalling. And to be very candid, I don't think that the folks who have the uniform zone, whether we're in a uniform, they really should not be speaking out because, one, that's almost like a preemptive strike against something that they don't know for a fact to be either illegal or immoral yet. The driving idea behind the separation of the military from the civilian force is called this thing called pacta comitatus. It puts the civilians in charge of us. In fact, I love Ronald Dellum's, rest in peace. He, a former Marine, made this statement to General Sullivan when he retired, that he was going to become the most powerful member in America when he retired, because the civilian force does command the military. That's fair. Then that's how it should be. At the same time, we are not to interface, and there are multiple reasons why we should not interface in a direct way. You know, Big U from the former member of the Crips talked about how he wants to make sure that we don't put people, he used the word homies. We don't want homies trying to run other homies. It's hard. And similarly, what you don't want to have is your civilians who've now been trained, Army, Marine Corps, Space Force, Air Force, Navy, now trained, coming back in with their own ideology and trying to run the neighborhoods, or under somebody else's leadership, running it with that kind of training. That's part one. The other thing is that our job is to fight and win the nation's wars. You don't want someone whose job is to get in that zone, identify a threat, make it an enemy, and to be fair, kill it and win. Kill him or her and win. That's a mindset. And so what we have to make sure that we don't do is let someone who takes this collective weapon and use it against civilians, because that's not their job. You know, God bless the guys who put the uniforms on as policemen, sheriffs, because they have learned and over time how to de-escalate. That's what Governor Newsom, he's seen riots before. His people have seen riots before, and they know how to.
Well, first of all, to your general, to your point, the police chief of the LAPD has said, no, we did not request troops. This has not risen to the level where we need that. He also has been critical by saying that the actions, even now the troops, well, the federal law enforcement officers, them firing tear gas has made their job easier. The NYPD has said the same thing. And what they've said is these federal agents, they aren't trained in that. That's not what they do. And they're like, leave that stuff up to us.
Yes. You know how to manage it. You know how to deal with people. You know, the civilian law enforcers, their practice, they walked into houses, into the hood, whereby they walk between a husband and a wife who have weapons in their hands, and they know how to de-escalate that piece, and then they know how to isolate. We do that in foreign countries, and we practice it. And to be fair, as a paratrooper, I had a little more experience doing it, but at the same time, I'm going to tell you, my guys were trained to break things and kill people. You don't want to do that. You want to bring them in. And so when you start to try to take these weapons, these people whose mindset is designed to do something different, especially if you don't have any time to transition them, to be able to de-escalate their warrior skills. You know, when the Brits go up into Northern Ireland, there's a transition period that they make them go through and rehearse both the reaction. We were doing that when we were in that period of operations other than war in the late 90s. We would send people through training processes. We keep forgetting that if you take a soldier, sailor, and a Marine, and put him in front of civilians, if that civilian responds to him, he first becomes just a threat. Then he becomes an enemy. That's the last thing we want in this nation. That's the last thing we want in this nation. You know, Chairman Kane, who's our current chairman of the Joint Chiefs, He's the only person on active duty that really has stepped up to, and by the way, that's his job, to interface between the civilian and the military. That's his job, to advise. And he clearly advised in a letter to the president that you cannot politicize our military, because he saw the danger in it. Similar to Mark Milley, when they watched that, it's great that we have that kind of leadership still in the uniform that says you're going to a different level. You can't bring our forces like that. You know, a young Marine had indicated that he would be not so kind to anyone who spat on him. And see, on the surface, you think that's just that young Marine. But that Marine is part of the Marine Corps. He is a friend. And after contact, soldiers, sailors, airmen, we fight for each other. This thing can evolve and devolve into something that we don't want it to be. You hit the nail on the head.
So General, the thing that again, that people have to understand, and Trump officials, that they do this when they say Trump's military, Trump's army, Trump's Marines. No, they're not. And presidents are very careful to understand when their language, because they understand that even though that person is the commander-in-chief, there's a hierarchy, there's a chain of command that the military cannot be seen as being used for partisan purposes. That the military does not identify as blue or red, Democrat or Republican. The military is about serving the American people. But what you have here, you literally have Pete Hegseth walking around. I served in combat. I know more about this than all of you. And they are taking a wrecking ball to so many firewalls in the Pentagon. And what you do, in the first time, you literally had a wall there. You had individuals who said, no, we can't allow these things to happen. That wall doesn't exist. There now is a straight line from whatever is going through the mind of that idiot Trump right through decisions made at the Pentagon. And so when you're talking to your fellow retired Army officers and other members of the military, what are they saying with what they are witnessing right now?
First of all, I'm reluctant to really call the commander-in-chief any names, and we can do that but the reality is that I can. I can. You can. We're all service, and to that end, right now what you have is the retirees and the active force. Their conversations, but they're looking at it literally through the lens of service and making sure that we're able to ultimately be able to do the things that we're asked to. You're asked to fight and win the nation's wars. That's why you maintain an army. Nations don't disagree because they maintain armies. They maintain armies because they disagree. And if you start to make it so that our military is now assigned to or believe that they follow the orders of the President of the United States, that's the oath that you take when you first join. The oath you take the moment you hit from sergeant on up, it is clearly to the Constitution. In fact, even the senators and congressmen take that off. It's to the Constitution. And Congress has a responsibility to actually raise the Army, to get the Army and prepare it for its use. The unfortunate piece that I don't think even our forefathers foresaw is that we would have people who don't even understand all of its uses and the impacts of it. Because you figure, remember, our leaders were born out of conflict at the time they're writing, and I all kind of understood that they had worked with Washington when they were crafting this thing, and even the others were diplomats on a larger scale. They couldn't envision that we'd have someone who had not fought before, someone who would be selfish Now, that part I will say without hesitation, because it's about him.
Well, you know what, General, I'll have to disagree with you. I disagree with you on this point. They did foresee this, but what they also established were checks and balances. The problem that we have right now, okay, I mean, you could say the emoluments clause, you could say all those things. They actually foresaw problems. The problem that we have here is that there are no checks and balances. Historically, we have had Democrats challenge a Democratic president when it came to their actions by saying, you're violating the United States Constitution. It was Republicans, Tennessee Senator Howard Baker, others who made that walk up Pennsylvania Avenue to Nixon saying,
let me clean up this a little bit. Because
so the problem is, hold on. So the only problem here, the only problem we have right now is we have a Republican Party that has completely capitulated, and they will not put this man in check. They won't do it. And Democrats, because they don't control the House or the Senate, they literally are left powerless to do anything. And that's really where we are. I mean, he's ignoring court orders.
Yeah, we did not disagree on that piece because in fact, you've heard me say this. We're at the threat with the vine. What I meant was we didn't foresee somebody who would not understand its implications. And I apologize for that because you're absolutely correct that that's the threat to our democracy, is that if we have a person who is not maintained, is not in check by the judiciary and also the people's representative, the legislature, you're spot on there. And I don't think there's sufficient pushback against him. And I mentioned earlier, it is the responsibility of Congress to go ahead and raise and provide those forces. And in our wisdom, we did in fact give governors a military element to go ahead and assist. That's that National Guard capability. And by the way, National Guard, they're twice the citizen. They are folks who come from the field. They know how to interface as well, but at a different level. And that to that end, when they come into the fight, you focus those into protection of infrastructure and let the law enforcement interface with the people. So there's even kind of a roll up, a format of how you use the different tiers of forces. And to your point, it's very clear that our forefathers saw a threat that if you ever gave too much power to one person, one entity, that's why they separated those powers, and they gave the judiciary the requirement and responsibility to be one, co-equal, and two, to interpret the Constitution, and then to issue those laws to help govern it. So yeah, you're spot on, and we agree with that. And there are many, especially
before I go to my panel with questions,
that also see this in voice, and you'll see some of them in the paper. So I mean, they'll make comment, but all of us are still trying to make sure that we aren't part of the problem, whereby someone thinks that there's this shadow force that's evolving and emerging. What we're trying to do is give our best advice to people who are in charge, to talk to our leaders in legislature, try to get some of them to wake up and push forward. And by the way, across party lines, the challenge has been put down, and the gauntlet has been thrown down by the money that backs these representatives. You've got Musk, who said basically, and even though he's split, he's now made up. He's still backing the horses and telling them and saying, if you go against what he's decided, I'm gonna do something to you. I'm gonna make sure that you're a last term, whatever you are. Those are the other dangers. That's kind of the back end or the gunpowder in these decisions.
We talked about you mentioned General Mark Milley, former Joint Chiefs of Staff leader, and it was a short speech But this was his outgoing message that he delivered that still resonates, and it's most important when it comes to what we are facing right now. This was a warning that he gave to the country. Unfortunately, the country did not heed his warning. Listen.
I'm deeply honored to have worn the cloth of this nation for 43 and a half years, and I'm humbled to have served as the 20th chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. But today is not about anyone up here on this stage. It's not about the President, the Secretary of Defense, me, CQ. It's not about us. It's about something much larger than all of us. It's about our democracy. It's about our republic. We are unique among the world's armies. We are unique among the world's militaries. We don't take an oath to a country. We don't take an oath to a tribe. We don't take an oath to a religion. We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator. We don't take an oath to an individual. We take an oath to the Constitution, and we take an oath to the idea that it's America, and we're willing to die to protect it. Those values and ideas are contained within the Constitution of the United States of America, which is the moral North Star for all of us who have the privilege of wearing the cloth of our nation. It is that document that all of us in uniform swear to protect and defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Those who sacrificed themselves on the altar of freedom in the last 2.5 centuries of this country must not have done so in vain. The millions wounded in our nation's wars did not sacrifice their limbs and shed their blood to see this great experiment in democracy perish from this earth. No, we the American people, we the American military, must never turn our back on those that came before us. And we will never turn our back on the Constitution. That is our North Star. That is who we are, and that is why we fight. Thank you, and may God bless our military, and may God bless the United States of America.
General Miller's a great guy, and we worked together. He actually worked for me for a week before I left. Good man, and that those aren't words. That's his DNA. You were going to say something. I'm sorry. He is. What you heard was you heard him articulating what every officer and for sure every person who's a senior leader has in their core, which is that commitment to this nation and to protect those soldiers, sailors, Air Marine, Coast Guardsmen, and spacemen when they are given and use the word privilege to command. And I said something earlier, if you understand it's both a privilege to lead and command America's sons and daughters, you treat them as precious as you can as you make them hard and do those tough things that very few people are willing to do. And so if you're going to take care of, you're going to put them in that kind of environment, you're going to also make sure that, one, they are treasured by America's citizens. And you're not going to have them looking at American citizens as less than or something other than what they are. It's those people, it's the idea, the concepts of this nation, those words that are crafted so beautifully in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. That's what you're fighting for. That's what we fight for. And when somebody, any one person, steps up to think that they're it, and you do my whims, that's when we break. That's when we break. And to the greater point, there was a clear vision to protect us from having this kind of breakdown in structure, because that's what we're fighting for. That's what we're fighting to protect. And so we've got to treat those soldiers, sailors, and Marine Coast Guardsmen and spacemen so that, one, they understand that they are not a political tool against each other, not a political tool against another party. They are a political weapon for American policy externally, principally.
I want to go to my panel. Greg Carr. Greg Carr, your question.
Thank you, Roland, and thank you, Brother General. It's clear at this point that this man has been having basically political rallies at military events and military installations. My question is really a two-part question very quickly. One, what do you expect this Saturday in terms of what's going on here? I was just left the Smithsonian and seeing everything lining up down there. We know it's not going to be a celebration of the Army, but a celebration of Donald Trump, which of course flies in the face of exactly what General Milley was talking about. What are you expecting Saturday to come out of this man's mouth with the entire United States Army as a backdrop staging for his branding exercise? And then could you say a word about the duty of active military to refuse to carry out unlawful orders, because that's clearly what we're inching toward.
First of all, I hope that no one has to actively refuse an order that is illegal or immoral, but they have that requirement to do that. They say it's illegal or immoral, and so I hope that doesn't come to fruition. The second thing is I won't try to give you my vision, because it's always dangerous to project what will happen or what. I can tell you a little bit about what I can. And by the way, June 14th is also my birthday. It's also Flag Day, and it is also the Army's birthday. It was, in my mind, the least of days to celebrate, because it is one parochial to Army. If you want to do the flag, and the argument that was made was that we never celebrate our wars. We never celebrate winning war because the results of war are never final. And no one has seen the end of war except the dead. Soldiers understand that. So we celebrate. We celebrate. When you see us walking down the street, we celebrate the fact that we're home, that we achieved a mission. That's what we did in previous times. We weren't celebrating that we won, because no single nation wins these major wars. So this idea that somehow this is, and this is the point that you're asking, I guess, that this is somehow a celebration of the military, it's a farce. It's a farce. It is a celebration to occur on a birthday. And I expect at some point in time, there will be a birthday celebration that will be part of this. And that's the thing.
Reese?
In fact, I even wrote about that a while back. He was going to try to do this. This was predictive, because it goes to the word of one of the essential values. The Army believes in loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. Selfless service is not in his DNA.
Reese?
Critical.
General,
yes, ma'am.
Yes. General, I'm curious, based on your experience, what do you think is, from what we're seeing in terms of the cheering and seeming support from the military for Donald Trump, how much of that is because of the audience he's curating versus how much the sentiment is pro-Trump, to the point of what you pointed out, their duty to refuse an unlawful or an immoral order? How much do you think we should be concerned? Because I'm very, very concerned.
Yeah. At this point, I would not be concerned yet. In fact, I was encouraged when I saw the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, fire out a letter that talked about the depoliticization of our military. And he cautioned that there's a decorum for the reception of how we treat and listen to the president, the commander-in-chief, when he's talking to the troops. So at this point, I am less concerned. But you have to understand what he did was, there's very little that he's for. It's the things he's against. And what you are against allows you to create the kind of anger, because that's a much easier emotion to address, what you're against versus what you're for. And unfortunately, he knows how to use those tools. This will be a parade. It will come across this time as pretty innocuous, not so much other than a parade. And to most Americans, that's what they think they will see. But the challenge is, it's what third world leaders do. You put your forces out in the hot sun so they can run out and show the weapons and things like that. When bases do this, they do it with local communities because they want the community to know what's in their backyard, and they always make it family friendly. And it's designed so that there's an intimacy between the community and their bases. This is not one that this nation needs for its community, for its citizens writ large. We don't need it, and most know that. Most know that.
Zabora.
Hi, thank you so much for your service. We know that Black and Brown service members are being deployed into our Black and Brown communities. So with them going in these communities against their own moral compass or named political reasons, how do we ensure that military discipline doesn't turn our troops into some kind of American Gestapo? And how do we protect their rights to refuse participation in missions that violate both their ethics and the communities that they're coming from?
Yeah, I got about 90. General, I got about 90 seconds. Go.
I'll go quick. You ought to have a little bit of comfort in the fact that if you do see those faces, remember there's a consciousness behind them. There's a consciousness behind them. And, it's like they wake up in the morning, they know who they're dealing with. And that will be part of the saving grace, is that you will see Americans, the full breadth of Americans in those formations. And you ought to hope that you see some Black and brown faces in those formations. And by the way, I encourage cameras to be out all the time. And I would also encourage you to, one, do what King did. Don't give anybody a reason to do something that will become escalatory. If I were a community leader, I would make sure that there's leadership at all places that do exactly what Jesse and what Andrew Young did to Martin Luther King Jr. We have a mission. We're protesting, protect each other. Don't give them a reason to go ahead and declare and show pictures of us as the aggressor and as the culprit. That's what I would tell you.
All right, then. General Ray, I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch for sharing your insight with our audience.
I appreciate you. And again, I appreciate your fire. I appreciate you saying some of the things that most of us don't and won't and can't say for a lot of reasons, because you need that fire. It's the same caution that we always had. King worked well because Malcolm was on the other end. Thank you all very much.
All right. Thank you so very much. All right, folks, going to a break. We come back. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, Congresswoman Summer Lee, they were on fire, lighting up the Trump administration when it came to the issue of immigration. We'll show you what took place today on Capitol Hill. Folks, you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Support the work that we do by joining our Bring the Funk fan club. Our goal is very simple. Get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each a year, which comes out to $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. I talk about this all the time, that the work that we do here is very simple. We don't have millionaires and billionaires cutting us checks. We don't have these ad agencies that are spending the resources like they do on Fox, CNN, MSNBC. So your support is critical to our success as we cover the stories, have our additional shows, really speaking to the issues that matter in this country. And so if you want to contribute via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here on your screen. Click the Cash App button to continue to contribute. You can also use a Stripe QR code for credit card processing as well. If you want to send a check or money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Send it to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
This week on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie, we're talking faith, family, fatherhood, and the pathway to reentry. Most of us, in some way, shape, form, or fashion, have had someone in our lives, whether it was a grandfather, a father, an uncle, a brother, or a cousin, who has been incarcerated or justice impacted. What does that look like in rebuilding family and relationships? What does it look like for us to be able to have substantive conversations, come to the table, love on each other, while at the same time get it all out in the open so that we can begin a new journey together?
You know, the last thing you want is, in the midst of trying to piece your life back together, for home to not be a comfortable place.
That's all next on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie here on Black Star Network.
This week on The Other Side of Change.
We are here talking about the unfortunate case of 30-year-old Adriana Smith, who was diagnosed and pronounced as brain dead at 9 weeks pregnant and is being kept alive by the state to carry this pregnancy out to full term without any input from her family. It's a really harrowing example of the lack of bodily autonomy we have in a post-Roe world, and we're going to dream bigger. Join us on The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network.
Next on The Black Table with me, Greg Carr. An hour of living history with Dr. Richard Mariba Kelsey, thinker, builder, author, and one of the most important and impactful elders in the African American community. He reflects on his full and rich life and shares his incomparable wisdom about our past, present, and future.
African genius is saying that my uncle was a genius, my brother was a genius, my neighbor was a genius. I think we ought to drill that in ourselves and move ahead rather than believing that I got it.
That's next on The Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Jo Marie Payton, voice of Sugar Mama on Disney's Louder and Prouder Disney Plus, and I'm with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
Well, folks, things got heated in the House Oversight Reform Committee, and Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett was in the thick of it, holding Republicans accountable when it comes to the millions being spent on immigration in this country and how they are wasting taxpayer money for what she called political theater.
And thank you so much to our governors. And I want to say I apologize. I apologize for the abuse that you are facing in this committee that is supposed to be about waste, fraud, and abuse. And I also apologize for wasting your time, because this is nothing more than political theater. Now, again, this committee is supposed to be about waste, fraud, and abuse. We did not have to have this faux creation of Doge. The committee itself, that is our job. So what I want to talk about is something that the American people may want to know, which is economically, how is this impacting them? These failed immigration policies that are only put on so that they can have a show, because we have a reality show president who seemingly still believes that this is all about TV instead of real lives. So let me talk about something really quickly, because I want to clarify something, because I believe that all of you understand the importance of something like tourism. Are you aware, any of you, are you aware as to whether or not tourism in the United States is anticipated to decrease to the extent that we are estimated to lose $12.5 billion in international vendor spending in just the year 2025?
I can answer as the tourism capital of the country.
I assume you could.
Tourism's already down. It is down in the North Country where the Canadians refuse to come over because of the hostility toward their country. It's happening in New York City. It's happening at our sporting events here, our theater. There's a ripple effect throughout our entire economy because of the change in attitude that our country, that once welcomed people from all over the world to visit and recreate and to live here, now feels like a very hostile place to them. It is going to have an economic impact on our bottom line without a doubt.
So let's talk about it a little bit more. So I am supposed to have a number of FIFA games in Dallas, and I am fully anticipating that we are going to have a problem because I've been receiving phone calls that people don't feel safe coming here, and it's not the immigrants. It's this government that is making them feel unsafe. But let me also do this, because they love to cherry pick. They can find, any one person that has been killed, and if they've been killed by an immigrant, then God darn it, every single immigrant is going out and they are killers, and that is the problem. But they don't want to talk about white supremacy. I don't know how many hearings we gonna have about the fact that there's been this one immigrant that killed this one person. And no, I'm not excusing any killings by them or white supremacists, but they haven't had these hearings. We didn't have a hearing on Buffalo and what happened there. We didn't have a hearing on El Paso and what happened there. We didn't have a hearing on Charleston and what happened there. So it's interesting that they pick and choose, because it seems like they love to pal around with the white supremacists, and so they don't want to talk about certain other things. But economically, I want to make sure that we're making this point again, because I know that Governor Pritzker, you were the beneficiary of a lot of things from the state of Texas. And a lot of people believe that Republicans are fiscally responsible, but instead they are actually fiscally irresponsible, because what he spent was a whopping $221 million transporting people from Texas to your state. Something tells me that he could have done something else with that $221 million. In addition to that, I know that there's been some conversations about what's going on in LA, and they want to say that it's riots because they didn't want people to keep talking about, say, the Epstein files or whatever other drama was popping off between the president and his little friend. So they wanted to change the conversation to immigration because they feel like, well, the polling is in our benefit. But let me tell you something. If they cared about making sure we were going to be fiscally responsible, they would tell the American people that it cost them $134 million to send the National Guard to LA for the quote-unquote riots that the governor didn't ask for, nor did the mayor of LA ask for, and they sent them over there, and they say that they care about our service members, yet they sent them and they were laying on the floor. They did not provide for food. So I don't know why we would believe that, number one, they want to fix this. They don't want to fix this, because the brokenness is a feature, not a flaw of the system, because it is beneficial to them when it comes to campaigning. If they can't stoke fear, then why are they going to, say, have anybody vote for them? Because that's what people are doing. They're voting out of fear. But Ms. Perryman, we know each other a little well. And I know you got a law degree. And it seems like we all need law degrees in here nowadays to understand the Constitution. So really briefly, I just want to make this point. There is a certain person that was afforded, say, due process. But let's say if, say, Donald Trump had been charged with all of these cases that he got charged with in 4 different jurisdictions, if he wasn't afforded due process, there could have been a possibility that he just would have been locked up and thrown somewhere, right?
That would be a possibility.
And then maybe we wouldn't have a tariff war or anything else that we're dealing with or all the other nonsense. But the point is, he was afforded due process, and regardless of the political opposition, Democrats, Republicans, and independents, I thought, believe that due process should be afforded to everybody, even him.
Due process is for everyone.
Okay, so the Fifth Amendment doesn't say that it's just for the people that are Americans?
It does not.
It says anybody on our soil?
It's for everyone.
Okay, it's pretty simple. I don't know why we are having issues, but I thank you and I will yield.
Well, folks, Pennsylvania Councilwoman Summer Lee, she got in on the action as well, and she didn't hold her tongue.
always funny the lack of decorum that we get, and people we do drop the gentleman act here oftentimes when attacking women who aren't able to defend themselves with equal time. But that's kind of the theme here, right? Attacking Americans or people who are not able to defend themselves, or at least who Republicans hope can't defend themselves. And that's what we're seeing essentially in Los Angeles. So I would say that this hearing is quite timely. What's happening with ICE and the military in Los Angeles is terrifying, and is directly caused by Trump's policies and his cruelty. It was Trump's overzealous ICE agents who started this specific incident. And now they want us to get bogged down in arguing over the right types of protest, or the right types of way, or the right way to defend yourself, the mythical perfect type, so that we could ignore that Trump is the one who is escalating all of this. Trump is the one who ordered in thousands of National Guardsmen over the objection of Governor Newsom, something that hasn't been done since 1965. Trump is the one deploying Marines, not on an enemy abroad, but on the American people who are exercising their First Amendment right in this instance. The only opportunity that they have to defend themselves against lawless lawmakers who are imposing cruelty upon them. For a party of so-called law and order folks, they sure are stampeding over people's constitutional rights and intentionally inciting more chaos, more fear, more anxiety, and increasing the likelihood that people will get hurt. In the end, what's happening in Los Angeles is just one of many incidents where Trump and his administration have not given a single damn about people's safety. For one, the ICE and DHS agents that are arresting people and raiding places often don't even have any kind of uniform or identifying badge. They're masked, and they're in unmarked cars. Ms. Perryman, just briefly, why is it so dangerous to have masked, plainclothes ICE agents arresting people?
So I'll just thank you, Congresswoman, for your question. I'll go back to what I said before, that we know our Constitution recognizes and our country recognizes the importance of trust between local law enforcement, the federal government, and governors. And what we're seeing here is a breach of trust. It's an escalation, and it's dangerous for the American people.
Trump said he was only going to go after undocumented criminals, but that's clearly not the case. Whether through incompetence or straight up racial profiling, ICE and DHS agents are wrongfully arresting U.S. citizens. We've talked about it today, and catching these mistakes often happens too late, after an American citizen has already been illegally thrown into another country, and Trump's administration is doing nothing to get them back. These agents are also going into previously protected spaces, as we've discussed, like churches and schools and hospitals. DHS agents tried to get into an elementary school by lying that they had the permission from the parents. That is a cartoonish level of evil. ICE also arrested a Massachusetts high school senior, Marcelo Gomez da Silva, on his way to volleyball practice. Governor Walz, you're a former teacher and coach. Do you think these kinds of actions create instability for students? And do you worry about increasing anxiety of kids coming to school?
Well, thank you, Congresswoman. I certainly do. Creating that safe environment where our kids can come and the expectation is to learn, they certainly do. Once again, there's no reason to use these enforcement actions at those locations when there are other tools. And I think, again, this false equivalency that we do not want violent criminals to be arrested, detained, and go through due process, we do, but hugely detrimental to the educational system, hugely detrimental to a system that is dependent on trust and the goodwill of everyone in that school system. So yeah, it is detrimental.
Thank you, Governor Walz. These same kids getting arrested are often being separated from their families. They are scared, they're alone. An attorney is one of the few resources they had access to that is now being taken away as well. The Trump administration has canceled contracts with legal groups that represent those undocumented children in immigration court. This is going to force thousands of kids as young as 2 years old to represent themselves very quickly, as we're running out of time. Ms. Perryman, how's a 2-year-old supposed to represent themselves in court?
A 2-year-old can't represent itself in court, him or herself in court. And I'll just say that we are in court every single day seeking to try to ensure that people have access to legal representation, which of course this administration is really seeking to curtail. They're seeking to ignore due process rights.
I was going to say, would you say that it is due process if a 2-year-old is left to represent themselves?
Absolutely. It's a flagrant violation of our Constitution. It's also something that shocks the conscience.
We'll leave it there. Thank you. I yield back.
Zipporah, one of the reasons why we like to show the full 5 minutes of House members and some of these Senate hearings is because a lot of folks never actually see or hear Black Caucus members in action. People often talk about, well, what are they doing? I don't see them standing up. I don't see them fighting. But these things happen. We know that Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is trying to become the next ranking member. That is the leading Democrat on this House Oversight Committee. And so, people need to understand that when we talk about the House and the Senate, the rules are different. The power is different. And the reality is you use these hearings to be able to put these facts out there so people are aware of actually what's going on in this country.
Definitely. You can hear it in both of those young ladies, the way they were able to just talk about how harmful this is, how wasteful this is. Even in me working with deaf kids this summer, trying to teach employment skills, their parents are worried. These ICE raids are creating a place where we can give our students the tools they need so they can be successful in the future. And because they're worried about ICE raids and how that's going to impact their families. You're hearing people say, it's not impacting us, so why are we worried about it? But when you see kids and them writing letters and saying that, I may not have access to my friends, or I may have to go back to Mexico or wherever they came from, this is just so disheartening. And to have our leaders being on the front lines, running after positions that put them in oversight committees that will stop some of these things. We are not powerless. We have to get out. We have to be active. We have to unify. And we have to fight for the things that are super important for our kids and for our future. And for a country that has always been built on so many diverse individuals and diverse groups being in this country. Listening to
Reese,
power in what she was saying is so important that we identify that we got to stand up. We can't just be sitting back twiddling our thumbs while they're running our communities, destroying our communities, and agitating protests that are peaceful.
Reese, there are a lot of people I hear, some African Americans, man, this stuff don't involve us. This ain't, we ain't got nothing to do with this here. Folk had better wake the hell up. I've read this the last 2 days, and I know I couldn't wait to read this for you and Greg. And that is Christopher Rufo had posted this on his Substack earlier this week, where he said that at the same time as we saw demonstrated in Portland, Oregon during the George Floyd riots, the agency should dispatch unmarked vans to follow key agitators and snatch them from the streets while the media are not looking. The most effective riot control is to take movement leaders off the field, infiltrate their networks, disrupt the flow of funding, and roll them up in federal investigations. Denying the left trained protest leaders now will create a strong precedent for the rest of the president's term. If these folks don't think that they will do this to Black activists, they are out of their minds.
They've been doing it to us since you think of the Black Panther Party and SICK and all of these other organizations that were infiltrated. They've been doing this to us. This is their game plan. They've always had it. So we can't be...
No, I'm sorry. Well, Reese, go.
Yeah, you know what? It's past the time of hypothesizing about what they plan to do. They are already doing it. These are the people that felt like they didn't go far enough in squashing the Black Lives Matter protest. So they are chomping at the bit, itching to get Black people. Be very clear about that. And I know that there is some sentiment amongst some people, not all, that this is about protesting and, well, Black people don't get out there and protest because that's what they're going to use as an excuse to wrap you up. Oh, no. You don't have to be protesting. You could just be walking home. There was a lady yesterday, it was a white lady I saw 2 days ago who was trying to go to her apartment building who was attacked by the police. So as long as these
That was a black woman from that was a woman from Chile who was on vacation with her child, and they snatched her in New York City and left her daughter there stranded and held that woman for 8 hours. And hell, she was just here on vacation.
Absolutely. Well, and we've seen even in it's really racial profiling, but we've seen where American citizens, military officers who are just plain clothes at the time, who are detained. The reality is you don't want to not just end up in South Sudan or Djibouti, but you don't want to be in the crosshairs of these people at all. And so the presence of 4,800 military personnel under the thumb of Donald Trump in any city is a problem. Greg Abbott is, I believe I read, going to unleash 5,000 National Guard in Houston. For what? People are gonna be trying to go to Juneteenth barbecues and shit, do some line dances, and yet he's gonna be sitting unleashing all of these military people. So even if you're not going to a protest, if you're going to the barbecue, you're going to a picnic, the presence of these forces is a problem for Black people, point blank, period. They don't need an actual reason. Your existence is reason enough for them. And so that's why we're trying to warn people to stay woke, stay prepared, and stay vigilant. If you don't want to get out there and hold protest signs and be on the front lines, okay, but you still need to keep your head on the swivel.
Greg, these Black folk better recognize this ain't about Latinos. This ain't about migrants. No, to Reese's point, they are pissed off with what happened with Black Lives Matter. They're pissed off that it was able to become the first Black protest in American history where a majority of American citizens supported it. And that's why that's why the right-wing media attacked Black Lives Matter with everything they had in 2021. They attacked critical race theory in 2022. They attacked woke in 2023. They attacked DEI in 2024. They are absolutely angry with what I call the third Reconstruction. And they said, oh no, we are going to destroy this. Y'all ain't, Black folks, you Negroes ain't having no footprint ever again.
That's their dream. It's a dying dream. This is their death rattle. And like many trapped animals, they are the most dangerous when they are facing their end. The strongest and only consistent diversity, equity, and inclusion grouping in the history of the United States of America is whiteness. The DEI intellectual Christopher Rufo, who if he were a Black man would not be writing or talking about anything, but because he is a white man and a white nationalist, he's promoted and platformed to talk about things he doesn't understand, is giving voice to their fantasy. It's a dying fantasy, but in its death knell, in its death rattle, it is perhaps its most dangerous. I spent yesterday in New York at the Schomburg Center testifying before the New York State Reparations Commission. I was there last year when Governor Hochul, who we saw testifying today there in Congress, signed the bill and the legislation creating the study commission in New York. And as I anticipated, I wrote my remarks, fully anticipating that I would be shouted at from the audience, from the descendants of slaves crowd, which they did. And I kind of smiled. It's recorded. It's out there on the New York State website, and you'll see me kind of chuckle and say, I'm here for all the smoke, all the baby smoke. And but I bring it up for this reason. Afterward, I had a long conversation standing outside the Schomburg on 135th and Malcolm X with many of these folks, these freedmen, these ADOS folk, who I embrace because I understand the pain that they're speaking from. But as we had the conversation, which was very amicable, and you know, because we're talking with a spirit of generosity, we all want the same thing. But what melted away from them was any logic connected with this blackface nativism. The idea in New York City, of all places, that you could somehow separate yourself from the multi-ethnic, multicultural polyglot that is New York City and stand on the other side opposite people who are in harm's way exactly like you and who, to your point, are in harm's way exactly like them is absurd on its face, and their arguments melted away. I said all that as a backdrop to this. That House Oversight Committee, which is run by another DEI politician, James Comer, who, if he were a black man, would be excoriated widely for being as stupid as he is. And of course, the Congresswoman from WrestleMania, Congresswoman Macho Man Savage from Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia, another DEI politician, if she were a black woman, would be widely excoriated. When we saw Summer Lee and Jasmine Crockett do what they are going to do increasingly, and Maxwell Frost on that committee, which is assume leadership in a Democratic Party who is still nursing the fantasy that you can make peace with these white nationalists, which means they are soft white nationalists, it's coming down to this. We will embrace the politics of solidarity, regardless if people want to throw up, well, this person doesn't like this person, or this group said this about this. You know what? Later for that, because these people are in the streets trying to act as if they can sustain this bullying. They're bullies. You know what you do with a bully? You punch them dead ass in the mouth, and politically organizing in the courts, and they will fold like the cheap DEI suits they are. But at this moment, this is not the moment to talk about my friend, my colleague. This is not the moment to turn your back on other people, because they are sending these punk-ass, jackbooted thugs like them 3 undersized boys that tried to tackle Alex Padilla, and expecting us to respond with, or I. No. Saturday is going to be a showdown, friends. Roland, and I'm Reese, everybody. I mean, I'm saying this as for all of us. It's not going to be nice Sunday afternoon downtown Washington, D.C. on the mall. And we may be talking about a very different conversation on Saturday night and Sunday, and then when you come back with the show on Monday, than we are having right now, because they understand one thing if they don't understand anything else. We live in a society where people are not paying attention. It's a meme culture. They're not studying. And so when you show Lee, when you show Jasmine Crockett testifying, you have to, the reason you do that so much is because people are not paying attention, and they will tell you straight to your face that they're not doing what they are doing. It's a time for us to be serious now.
I need people to understand something. When Reese made the point about Greg Abbott and the troops, so the protests that are going to be happening this weekend, all across the country, some 2,000 are planned. Well, Lena Hidalgo, who is the Harris County judge, Latina, said, "I don't need your troops. We can handle protest." Remember what Governor Greg Abbott did when there were protests on the campus of the University of Texas. He sent Texas Department of Safety state troopers. Remember days they were pushing and shoving in riot gear. So what they want to do is they absolutely want to intimidate protesters. But here's why the protests are working, Reese. Governor Gavin Newsom talked about this here, where they were raiding all of those fields in California, chasing folks out. They arrested this one man and one woman, stranding their child. Child has no other family in the country. What did Trump do today in the Oval Office? Pull back on the raiding of the fields. You know why? Ain't no workers. Uh-oh, who's going to pick crops? So Newsom did a video. He said, keep the protest up. It's working, but do it peacefully. And that's the deal. The way you combat these thugs is you have to unleash massive protests nationwide. If you start blocking and shutting down Wall Street and highways and all sorts of different things, these people have to see a full force. And I absolutely hope that this Latinos, y'all just got y'all wake-up call. All y'all crying-ass Cubans who voted for Trump, now y'all shedding all these tears. This is not what we voted for. Yes, it is. All them Venezuelans in Florida who backed Trump, y'all were making songs and singing. This is their wake-up call, and let's see if they go woke, Reese.
You know, I said it before on this show. It's the annual wake-up call, and everybody gets one. Everybody, even Elon Musk got an annual wake-up call with that black guy and getting dragged by Donald Trump. So the reality is this: they have to step up. They have considerable political power. To be fair, a majority of Latinos did vote for Kamala Harris. They did not vote for this. I know that everybody is trying to flip the numbers now and say, well, this is what you wanted. There are certain demographics within the Latino community, particularly Cubans, who more supported Trump. But most, like, especially in Los Angeles and California, supported Vice President Kamala Harris, so they did not vote for this. But the reality is we are seeing that when they get activated, that they can change the narrative, they can change the conversation. I'm a Cali girl. I grew up in Cali, so I saw how they organized many a times in California when that community was under assault. And so I want everybody to the fight because it is going to take a mass movement. This cannot wait until 2026 when the next elections happen, if we have them. This is always going to be resolved through some sort of civil disobedience, through some sort of mass movement. And I applaud everybody who's out there who is putting their selves on the line, who is helping organize, whether it's behind the scenes or in front of the scenes, because we have to send the message that we are not going to go down without a fight. And if we can do that peacefully, even better, because the reality is the wrong people got the most guns in this country. Okay, because the last I checked, we ain't got too many black militias, Latino militias and shit. All that's on the Republican MAGA crazy ass side of in those places. And so, yeah, let's, as long as we can, try to put some fear in them through nonviolent protests.
Greg, matter of fact, give me 1 second. Let me go get this book. So I want to show y'all this here. We actually had this sister on the show. So when I spoke today at the 32nd annual Juneteenth celebration, a sister came up to me and she said, hey, you know this professor, and she wanted me to give you this book. This is perfect. Let me just show y'all this here. Just hold on. Her name is Gloria Brown Marshall. She has a new book out. We're going to be doing an interview with her. Trust me, y'all, none of this was planned. I'm going to be doing an interview with her. And so a young lady came up to me today and handed me this book. And it's perfect timing. The book is called A Protest History of the United States. And she lays out, it says here, protest is primal and multifaceted. In A Protest History of the United States, Gloria J. Brown Marshall shines a bright light on this nation's past and present, revealing protest's crucial role. There's a reason, Greg, it was called the First Amendment. That's a reason the right to assembly, the freedom of expression. There is a reason it is in the First Amendment. And these right-wingers, they adore the second. They can't stand the first, except when they want to protest or when they want to lead an insurrection on January 6th.
Absolutely. Did she sign it, Roland?
No. So Gloria wasn't there. So she gave it to a young lady. She came up to me after my speech. She said, hey, she wanted you to have this. She's been on your show before. And I was like, all right, cool. So she handed me the book. It's like literally hot off the presses. The book, it went on sale April 22nd. And so it says this comprehensive history traverses over 4 centuries of American descent, weaving together legal analysis, historical documentation, personal memoir, and interviews with those who have taken a stand. And I just think that, look, where we are right now, it's real simple. This is how we fight back against these fascists and these thugs of Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, Tom Homan, and others.
Absolutely. And,
I can move over if I need.
The reason I asked you is because I was hoping maybe I would get the chance to see my colleague Gloria Brown Marshall last night. She's at John Jay, of course, professor of constitutional law and Africana Studies at John Jay College. And I would have, if I had thought about it in advance, I would have stuck my copy of the book in my bag. You know, I already got that book, brother. So now that means you can keep that one.
Of course, I know you already had it.
But anyway, yeah, this not Jane Elliott pulling a trade book out of her bag as if that's a book that I would have had immediately. I did eventually get that book, but this is a different kind of book. And to your point, particularly the chapter where she writes What Did the Slaves of the 4th of July, dealing with Frederick Douglass. First of all, we've been here before, as we know, and not exactly this way. But if Fred Douglass and Ida Wells, if Harriet Tubman and Mariah Stewart and David Walker could face down the situations they face down, certainly we can do no less here. But you're raising, Roland, I think, again, spot on as always here in this space, that we have to fight. While we've been on the air, Stephen Breyer's younger brother, Charles Breyer, has been in district court in San Francisco giving holy hell to the government's lawyers around this question of whether or not Trump can deploy a federalized takeover the National Guard. They haven't even gotten to the issue of whether you can send active duty military in, and you heard the general talk about posse comitatus. You can't do it. It's not going to last. But when Judge Breyer, as we've been on the air, said during the arguments, you know, I'm tracking and it's coming through, and I know you're tracking it as well. He said, that's not where we live. We live in response to a monarch. This country was founded in response to the monarch. He said, the Constitution is a document of limitations. They're going to bump up against the full confrontation with the Constitution. And of course, as we heard General Milley say, the military take oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. Not a person, not even the country. And it comes down to this very serious confrontation that's going to test whether or not there will be a country that continues. When we saw Tim Walz from Minnesota, when we saw J.B. Pritzker from Illinois, when we saw Kathy Hochul from New York, when we hear Gavin Newsom from California, what is going to be tested is the concept of federalism. When Gavin Newsom says, maybe we should just stop paying taxes. And at that point, the hillbilly horde in Missouri, where they've now decided to send their troops out, the hillbilly horde in Mississippi and Alabama, and, you know, they're going to be in trouble. Why? Because y'all are all welfare recipients in those states from the people like New York, like Illinois, like Minnesota, certainly California, one of the largest economies in the world if you took it out of the United States. And Canada is saying, allow California, come on with us, come to death row. We might be looking at the heating up of what has been a cold civil war since the end of the hot one in the 1860s. But guess what? It was going to come down to this anyway. This No More Kings protest, all these cities and counting, is only going to get larger. You know what beats back fascism? The people. The most powerful element in the history of humanity is humanity. So I don't care whether you're ADOS and saying that these people don't have anything to do with us. I don't care if you're the would-be radicals who want to say that if you're not ideologically aligned with me 110%, I'm not going to organize with you. It's time to put aside all those things and understand we are facing a real fascist threat that we can overwhelm. And the good sister Gloria Brown Marshall gives us a map of how every time fascism has raised its ugly face, the people have risen up to oppose it, and that's the only reason we can have the conversation we're having today.
It is indeed the only reason, and what we have to understand is that we can never ever forget our history. 62 years ago on this day, Medgar Evers, the leader of the NAACP in Mississippi, was assassinated in his driveway, his wife, Myrlie Evers, having to witness him dying in her arms, his children having to witness that. And here we are, 62 years later, having to witness these Trump idiots try to strip his name from a Navy vessel. Pete Hegseth had announced they were removing the names of there were 8 vessels named after activists. Among them, Cesar Chavez, Harvey Milk, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Harriet Tubman. And Hegseth wants to rebrand these against wokeness and diversity. Now, let's be real clear. Let's be real clear. This is the same man who served in the Army, Medgar Evers. But this is the second time they've done that. Now, remember, they removed his name from the website at the Arlington National Cemetery, which featured a section on African Americans who fought in wars. Now, they had to restore that because they got attacked. This is what Rena Evers Everett said. Renaming the USNS Medgar Evers is not only malicious, it is despicable. As my mother said, this is an injustice to a man who fought for his country both at home and abroad. Again, what they're angry about, they don't want this story of these freedom fighters to be told. Even the little games they're playing with restoring the Confederate names of the military bases, Donald Trump's actions. But what they're doing is they are finding the same names of other people. So, for instance, Fort Robert E. Lee, they went and found a black private whose last name is Lee because they are hell-bent on it still being called Fort Lee. So they're looking around for same names. They're culling through military records and trying to do that. These people are just idiots, Reese. They are idiots. But I need everybody watching to understand this is not a game. Project 2025 is what I call a 100-year document. It is a document. It is an agenda that they want to lock down and ram through, because when this nation becomes a nation that's majority people of color in 2043, and with the dwindling birth rates of white people in this country, what these fascists today desperately want is they want America never to look like South Africa. They like, no, oh no, y'all ain't about to. We white folks have rewritten the history of this. We've written the history of this country in a way for us. I talk about when I went off on the History Channel and that bullshit docu-series where they kept talking about Texas independence and never mentioned what they were trying to be independent of, which is they wanted to keep slavery. These people have written history in their own minds, and their whole deal is if we can strip this nation bare, I mean strip it bare of race, strip it bare of history, then we can restore this purity of whiteness as the defining standard of what America is. I tried to lay this out in my book, White Fear, and all of these mainstream media folk, all of these show hosts, people who I sent books to, they were afraid to even book me on the shows because they are living in denial about the white fear that is happening before our very eyes in America. I'm gonna go to you first, Reese.
Yeah, I mean, these people are stupid. They're dumbasses, but they are very insidious and they're very strategic. And so they have been very clever in how they've gone about this by enlisting the bigotry within each of these communities that will never benefit from white, but they don't like this person. They don't like that group. They don't like that group. So they dangle whatever it is that people don't like about that group in front of people to get them on board, to get them to empower Republicans who want to dismantle everything for everybody, for really white billionaires, white, straight, Christo nationalist billionaires. They're willing for everybody to do the dirty work to be the mules of their white supremacy, but only so many people are going to benefit from them. And they have the power. I mean, let's look at every single metric. White people have the power. They have the most wealth. They have the most power. They have the most disproportionately positive impacts and results from every aspect of this society. But what they also want is the violence. That's what I think this is really all about. That's why they want to glamorize the Confederacy, because that was a time where white people, or certain white people, I should say, violently revolted against the humanity of enslaved people, against a system that disenfranchised violently and stripped people of their humanity, and women, by the way. They were able to violently revolt. Now they lost, because they some sorry ass punk ass bitches and they're treasonous. But now it's been romanticized in a way that they're trying to signal to us they want to see that green light again. That's why one of the first orders of business of Trump was to pardon the DC cop that killed a Black person. That's why they are dismantling these consent decrees and they're undoing things. That's why they're deploying military personnel throughout the country. They want the violence. They want to violently subjugate people. Republicans win strictly off of disinformation, misinformation, and voter suppression. Half the country's already checked out. They didn't give a damn that a man who had 35 convictions was running on all of these things in Project 2025, which, by the way, is 42% complete already. They didn't even need to lift a finger to get that happen, but they're not satisfied. They want permanently entrenched power, and they want the ability to violently rule over this country.
Zabor.
I think everything that everyone has said is so important. We know that they have the highest numbers of individuals in jail, but they want it to seem that Black individuals are the individuals that are there, are people of color, are immigrants, are the individuals that are doing all of the crime. But we know that's not the truth. They want to romanticize our history while sitting comfortably in their fragility and entitlement. And us as Black people not taking accountability and understanding that if it's happening to our Latino brothers and sisters, we are next. We can't sit by, be quiet, ignore the things that are happening every day, not participating in the ways that we can. I'm not saying martyr ourselves, but I am saying we have a responsibility to stand up, to fight, and not be quiet. Time for that is over. To assume that it's okay, not hold the people around us accountable, not let them know how their lack of knowledge and inability to hold themselves accountable and hold our family members accountable is impacting us and impacting our immigrants, a place where we are built on immigrants. It's time to stop. It's time to realize that they are coming for us. This is going to take us hundreds and hundreds of years to repair the damage that they are doing, and we have to fight back. That's it. We have to make sure we are protecting our mental health of our kids, our future, and what we're doing now. How are we doing it now? How are we changing? How are we organizing? How are we mobilizing?
Right.
Yes. Yes.
Greg, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah. Of all of this, how are we getting our communities together?
And all right, is you ready? Do we have Greg?
Greg? Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. Well, I'll keep this brief. The DEI hire, that is the Secretary of the Army, Daniel Driscoll, saying that the United States Army is built for moments like this debacle that's about to happen here in the District of Columbia this Saturday, might want to remember. Well, he won't because he's a DEI hire, but General Mathis, who I'm sure may have gotten an invitation to be there. It would be interesting to see if these ex-Army guys show up. But remember when Jim Mathis was Secretary of Defense in 2017, and Trump wanted to ruin the streets of D.C. with these heavy-ass tanks and running down the streets. And Mathis said, quote, "I would rather swallow acid than do that." And well, now there's a DEI hire, Daniel Driscoll, in charge of the Army, and he will do it. Another DEI hire, a man famous for being a day drunk and being abusive to women. Of course, his major qualification, given the diversity, equity, and inclusion of whiteness, is his white maleness to be the Secretary, in fact, of Defense, Pete Hegseth. For him to troll, to carry out this trolling of renaming these ships, the Harriet Tubman, the Medgar Wiley Everest, as you say, and then to replace Robert E. Lee, and of course the clown, whose brain is clearly addled, who is not well mentally, to let seep out of his orange mouth the other day, we're renaming everything the Robert E. Lee. Okay, you didn't even remember to keep up the cosplay of the brother who you're swapping the name out for, because you're not swapping out the name, and this is the point. They are trolling us. We must stay focused. We must stay focused on the fact that they're going to try now to throw everybody off their health care, as many as they can. They couldn't repeal Obamacare one way, so now defunding it is their strategy. They couldn't go after the Inflation Reduction Act, Joe Biden, so now their way to do it is to starve it with this big BS bill. That is the major thing in front of us right now. Confronting folks in the streets, weaponizing the National Guard, sending active military into the streets, all of that will not pass constitutional muster, and it will be sorted out. In the meantime, trolling, putting your hands on United States senators, trolling, changing names on boats, trolling, all of that is pursuant to the strategy that Steve Bannon said years ago: throw everything against the wall, keep them responding, crisis, crisis, crisis. It's like cats chasing a flashlight beam. If we stay focused, we will be able not only to survive this, but to transcend it. We have to stay focused, and we have to stay engaged. You're right, Roland. What we're going to see all over this country on Saturday in terms of this No More Kings piece, it's simple enough. It's like a meme, No More Kings, 3 words, and that is going to look like a drop in the bucket as week after week, month after month, the protests get larger, the people get more involved. And I'll end with this. I'm not calling for this. I hope it doesn't happen, but ask yourself what would happen if they put their hands on your mother, on your baby, on your husband or wife. Ask what would happen if they bust in the 6th grade class and snatch your nephew. And you will have the answer to what some of these charged up on DEI white supremacy boys and the Negroes who follow them are going to face when they put their hands on the right one. And at that point, you have all the ingredients for an explosion, and God only knows what happens after that.
Indeed, indeed. All right, folks, real quick final story. The Southern Association of Colleges and Schools Commission on Colleges investigating another HBCU, this time Florida A&M. The commission is looking into allegations that the university's trustees have interfered with faculty hiring decisions. It's unclear whether the probe is connected to FAMU's presidential search process, which has faced criticism for its alleged political influence and lack of transparency. The investigation is not expected to conclude before the Florida Board of Governors meets on June 18th to consider the confirmation of FAMU President-elect Marva Johnson, a cable lobbyist with zero college experience. The university's Board of Trustees recently approved a lucrative contract for Johnson to be funded through the Florida A&M Foundation. The budget language grants trustees the authority to reallocate funds, potentially diverting money from areas such as athletics and scholarships to cover her compensation if necessary. And she's actually going to be getting paid more than $300,000 more than the previous president. That, folks, right there is an absolute sham. All right, folks, that is it for us. Before I go, earlier today, I spoke at the 32nd annual Juneteenth Freedom Celebration here in Memphis. It was a great affair. And so, look, Juneteenth, not new to the folks here. 32 years they have been having this event. Y'all should have the video, so roll it. And so it was a great time speaking there. We live streamed the event on the Black Star Network. And so if you want to see that, what we're going to do is tomorrow, at the conclusion of tomorrow's show, we're actually going to show you my speech to the folks in attendance there. Again, challenging them, if you will, challenging them to take advantage of the fact that this city has a 62% black population. But when you look at the economics of this city, it doesn't even come close to the success that African Americans have had in places like Atlanta, Washington, D.C., in other places. And so we are going to, of course, have that for you. So I appreciate everyone who invited me, for participating. Great leadership here of this annual event. And so it was a great celebration. Again, so if you want to see the speech, just simply go to our YouTube channel or the Black Star Network app. Folks, that is it. I'm about to go chat with Representative Justin Pearson, leaving here in a moment to go meet him. And so I appreciate everybody watching the show. Greg Zabor Reese, thank you for joining us on today's show. I appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Folks, support the work that we do. Join the Brina Funk Fan Club. Your support is critical. Cash App. If you want to give the Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. Make checks and money order payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. You can, of course, send to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And, of course, to support our work, download the app. We also want you to, of course, get our books, our paraphernalia, all that good stuff. And there's a way for you to support the show in all those ways. That's it for me. I'll see y'all tomorrow from Columbus, Ohio. That's right. I'll be there tomorrow. I'll see you then. Y'all take care.